Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it's Thursday. It's February 27th. This will be our chart lesson for today, and um, this is Thursday, so no chart lessons on Friday. So this will wrap up our week. I'll be back again Monday, but this will wrap up our week for this week. Looking at the daily chart, another big bearish day, and this support did not hold. We went much lower. Looks like we're going to test these levels. We might even go lower here. I haven't even drawn a new channel, and it looks like this channel is still in play. I don't see close outside of it yet, really. So we may not be done to the downside. We're definitely very oversold. We're outside the brown line, so prices are probably going to rally here soon. But sometimes this can push on down a little bit before things turn back up. So we'll see. Wouldn't surprise me at all if we haven't found a bottom here or very close. Maybe we trade lower and then reverse tomorrow and get a reversal bar out of here. We'll just have to see what the market brings, and we'll go from there. But as of right now, we're still in a downtrend. So anyway, um, we'll see what tomorrow brings. It's a very ugly day today. Um, you could see big bearish day. We opened and traded a little higher, and then ended up selling off. And you know the market is really volatile. Uh, Reverses on a dime and goes 100 miles an hour one direction, and reverses and goes 100 miles an hour the other direction. And I've had a few people email me and say, "Look, I was trading so well, and all of a sudden I can't get anything right." And I've had at least 3 or 4 people say the same thing. And it's what I try to tell you. The market has different personalities, and just when you think you got it figured out, it'll switch gears on you. And things had slowed down a little bit and had gotten slower and easier. And now all of a sudden the volatility's cranked back up. We're selling off, and it's gotten, there's a lot of reversals, and uh, we're rocketing down with high momentum, and then it just finds a bottom and rockets up with high momentum, and finds a top and rockets back down, and it's just a different market now, and that's why this takes a while to figure it out, because it takes a while to get the experience and see all of this stuff, and you don't see everything in a year or so, probably not even in 2 years. So if this market seems different and seems harder, that's because it is different and it is harder right now. But it'll change eventually again, and it'll get easier again, and it might even get harder before it's over. This is still nothing like during COVID when it was super crazy volatile. So if you're struggling right now, and you're trying to trade live, get back on the simulator, trade the simulator, and get some more experience, because it's, even if you've been doing this a couple of years, you don't have a lot of experience at the screen, and a lot of it. You can learn the strategy in 6 months to a year and get pretty good at following the strategy and picking everything out. But trying to do it in real time and having the experience to understand exactly what prices are doing, where they're going, you can't get that in a year or two. You simply cannot get that in a year or two. Every now and then somebody will break through in a couple of year time period, 18 months, 2 years, but it's rare. Most people are going to take longer than that because it's not that easy to do. So don't beat yourself up if you're struggling. The market's just tough right now. I mean, look at that's a weekly chart right there, and look at that sell off. Nothing pretty there happening at all. And the sad thing is it's rocketing up at times and down and up. It's not just straight down the way it looks on this chart. This thing was up, down, up, down, up, down the last few days. So hang in there, keep studying, keep trading. Don't be so eager to go live, because all you're going to do is give your money away. Keep your money safe by sim trading until you know for certain that you've got this, and you'll think you've got it way before you have it. I can promise you that. Everybody does that. Everybody goes through that. They think they got it, and then they find out they don't have it, and they get discouraged. And it's just because they weren't ready yet, because they had gotten used to a certain market personality, and they were getting pretty good at that one. But now it's changed gears again. And it takes a while to see all the personalities the market can throw at you, and you got to get experienced in every single one of them. So hang tight, keep trading. The only way to get better, if you're just trading every day and then closing up and going home, you're not going to get much better. The way you get better at this is you sim trade every day, and then at the end of the day, you study those trades, even the winners, because sometimes you get lucky. You'd be surprised how many times people send me a winning trade and they're all excited about it. It was a horrible setup or no setup, and they just got lucky. And they're all excited about it, thinking they did a good thing and figured it out, and they're not even, and it wasn't even a good setup. So study all your trades, including the winners. Make sure that you're following the rules and that the setup was what you think it was. And because the worst thing you can do is think you did the right thing, and then tomorrow you do that same. The next 5 times you do that same thing, it'll fail, and you'll be like, "What the heck? I thought I had this figured out, and the only thing was you got lucky on one trade, and you didn't trade it right." So don't get discouraged. Keep trading. Make sure you study your trades, winners and losers, and do that every single day. That's what makes you better. Trading alone will never get you there. You have to study those trades and study the chart, see what you missed, correct your tendencies, figure out your tendencies and correct them. Your tendencies will be different than mine or Joe's or Bill's or Sally's or Jill's. We'll all have a slightly different tendency. Some of us will have the same tendencies, but most of us will not have the same tendencies. So you have to study your trades, your charts, and figure out your tendencies, reinforce the good ones, correct the bad ones, and if you do that every day, you'd be surprised how much faster you'll get better. But anyway, I didn't mean to get off on that tangent today, but just with all the extra emails, and this is a tough market right now. Even for good traders, this is a tough market because you can get fooled quick because it can reverse on a dime and go on. The momentum just is crazy how it'll reverse, and the momentum just fires off in the other direction on a dime. And that can trap you and hurt you. So don't try to ride out losers. If you're wrong, take your hit and live to fight another day. That's the key. So anyway, you can see very bearish day. We're in the very oversold territory. So will we rally tomorrow? I'm guessing we probably will, but no guarantees. So we'll see what tomorrow brings. Let's flip over to the 2000 tick chart, take a look at it, go through the trades, and we'll wrap this week up. Okay, here it is, and you can see how volatile it was really from about 9 o'clock to about 1 o'clock. This thing was super volatile. Then we had a really nice trend down. And then it got volatile a little bit in there for another hour or so, and then off we go again. And early on, we had a good trend down. There weren't a lot of trades there. And then notice how we just found the bottom and reversed, and then it spiked. Look at those momentum moves. Boom, boom. And then you're back down, and then boom, another big momentum to the upside. This is hard trading, hard trading. So you got to be careful. You got to trade smart, and you just have to be patient and wait on the right setups. You can see there's plenty of trades in here, but you just got to wait on the right ones, and sometimes you have to sit for a while. Anyway, let's zoom in here and we'll go through the trades. You had to be a little patient this morning. We had a news item real early this morning. We trended up, closed outside, had a new high, and then we started trending down. 7 o'clock came right in here, and then you probably needed to be flat for at least 5 or 10 minutes. And so I don't really see any trades here. You do get a second entry here. You've already had your close outside and a couple of moves to a new low. So every setup from then on starts to get risky. But we're still working lower here. So maybe you take that trade. There's enough room. There's just enough room to scalp out. It's not ideal, but maybe you take it. Then, of course, you reverse. And you get a reversal pattern here after this is played out. And you've already had a break and new high up here, so it looks like we're maybe forming a range. So it wouldn't be out of the ordinary to have a reversal here, but it's not really a good setup because you have to enter above the inside bar, and because this is your signal bar and makes the lowest point, you still have to put your safety stop down there. So it adds a little more risk to it. It's not a perfect setup. Maybe you take it, maybe you don't. But then you get your break. and you got this little tight range, and so it's a little failed breakout. It's a very tiny bar, like 8 ticks, so it's low risk. Um, Most breakouts fail. Again, you're better off to wait on the higher low, which comes over here. So this is the better entry, but maybe you enter there. You see it would have worked. You get 2 legs up and you come back, and it looks like there's just a wider range in the end. We run back up here. You turn down right in the range, but it starts working sideways, and you just get congestion here. If this would have closed on its low below that midline and below the EMA, and you still had room to get out, I'd say maybe you go short there. But I think you got to sit this out. If you enter below that bar, I think it's a 1 tick failure. If you enter it on the engulfing bar, I think it works. But that signal, that bar right there is not. You want that to be completely solid, so it looks like it traps people, and it doesn't do that there. So no entry there. Runs up here at the top. You wouldn't. This is just your first. Actually, that does confirm the trend line, but the signal bar is not good enough. You could treat this like a breakout and say, okay, I'm going to trade the breakout. But again, I think you need to wait on a lower high because that signal bar is not very good, and you just don't get it. And you get this big move down, no real chance to enter, break, and new low. That basically makes a double bottom there. So maybe you enter there, you're way away from the EMA. Again, a higher low is the better place to enter, and that doesn't come till here, and I think it's too late. And of course, you finally get a close outside a new high. So, and you get a nice signal bar here. It's engulfing. You can't enter on that engulfing bar, so don't try to enter there. And you'd want to go low, 1 tick below that bar, and then that gets you into this trade. And you make a couple of legs down here, and once it starts going short again, then you got to look for another trend. And I believe there is another one right here, and you get a close outside, a couple of legs down. But I don't see. Uh, there's actually a couple of. It looks like a little spike and channel down that gets a break, but there's a bigger channel here too. You can see that trend line is holding all the way down. And then you get a close outside, but there's just no setups here. There is a second entry here, but you got to go short right into the lows, and you've already had a break and you're, a low in place. So I just sit tight and notice how you push up and you get a first entry short, and then you get a second entry short that fails. You also get a second entry long. The problem is you got that resistance right across there. So it's a little iffy, but it's probably, if it breaks above it, it's probably going to act like a trap, and you'll probably get a scalp out of it. So maybe you take that entry. What I would recommend here is just wait and see if you get a higher low off that double bottom there. And you do here with a decent signal bar, and that's the better place to probably go long. Because you'll probably get a new high, but it could just be 1 tick. So, but if you get a higher low, then you're probably going to get that other leg up, and it's going to be at least as big as that one. This turned out to be a little bigger, but then you just start kind of chopping sideways and down, close outside new low, and that confirms the trend line there. So I like jumping in there. If you get a higher low, definitely get in, but I like getting in here. You can clearly see we're walking up that trend line, and you get a break in new low right at the trend line. I like going long there. It looked like we were going to get a higher low, but it didn't set up very well there. That's just a first entry. And this one I like somewhat because you got the close outside, and it breaks lower and fails and turns up. Again, I don't know that if I go long above this bar, I think there's still room to get out on that one. I like it for the engulfing bar. And you got just enough to get out 1 tick above that. You get your 6 ticks. But honestly, if you didn't enter on this engulfing bar, because it breaks lower and fails and turns up, and so there's plenty of room from there to there. And that's a fairly low risk bar, 7 ticks. So maybe you enter that way, but it's always dangerous entering on an engulfing bar, especially if you're a fairly new trader. You shouldn't even look at those. Just skip them for now. So if you enter this one, I recommend on the engulfing bar. If you wait for this to close, it still works, but I'm not crazy about it. Again, I probably should have made that green. And then you do get another test over here, so now you easily got a triple test. again, I made this one green because the bar is so big. And this is, I don't believe this is an engulfing bar. If it was, you could have entered on that because the low is 65.50, and I think this one's 65.50. Actually, this one's 65. Actually, it did break lower, so you could have entered that on the engulfing bar. Again, I don't know that I would enter way up here. It's just you don't have much room. It would have worked, but you're taking a big chance. But from here, you try to go lower twice, and you get this double bottom. And notice you got a leg down, a two-legged. It's sideways, but there's a two-legged move, and then another leg down. And so when you get that two-legged move in there, it usually means you're going to get another leg up. And a lot of times it's a measured leg. So if you're just looking at that, you're going to have plenty of room. But it goes much higher than that. And so I like that entry just because it tried to go lower twice and it's got that little two-leg swing in the middle. Now, some of you may not be able to see that. Let me show you. Notice the low. You move up, then you move back down, and then you move back up again, and then you turn back down. It's not easy to see, but it's there. It's with more experience, you'll start to see those. And this turns out to be a really great trade. When you're in here, you're just looking for a scalp, maybe a measured leg like so, but this thing takes off. And I think it overshoots up here on this side. How do I know that? I don't know for sure, but I moved this around to where it fit the price action on the midline. And you can see that how it fits really nicely across there. And that usually is how you can, your secondary way of figuring it out if you don't have enough touches up here. And so this looks like an overshoot, and sure enough, it did lead to a break. So that's a good reason to consider that this is probably an overshoot. And I don't see any way to get short there. You don't want to get long here. No shorts here. And again, you're just getting first entries all the way down here until you finally you get the close outside and the move to a new low. And you had previous support across here too. It's a little bit lower, but not much. And then it runs up. You get a higher low here. You'd already kind of pushed through the EMA, so I think you'd be okay taking that one. I kind of like that trade. It's a 2-bar matching low. It's an inside bar, but that 2-bar matching low is like a new swing low. So I think you could take that one. You definitely got 2 legs down here. And this thing just takes off. And that's just a first entry up there, a lower high, but it's a first entry. But there's no close outside this channel, so I'd sit tight. And you actually get 2 legs down. There's a second entry there, but no signal bar. And then we get stuck in this tighter range here. And I wanted to talk about a trade here. Okay, it's on over here. We'll continue. But notice you get 2 legs up and you turn down right there. This makes a higher high, and you don't really know that this is the highs yet. I mean, I'd draw my line across there where those closes are. It looks correct. And then when it comes down here and bounces where these bounce again, it's pretty obvious. You get a trend down, you get a close outside and a new low all in one bar here. So maybe you take that, maybe you wait on the higher low, and the higher low turns out to be an inside bar right at the highs. And that actually breaks out. So this is like a failed breakout here. Somebody else sent me their chart, and they drew their high of this across here, and I think their lows down here somewhere. And this is holding most of the price axis. You can clearly see that's where most of your resistance is, and that's where most of your support is. And so to me, this is a failure. Either way, you're still in this channel, so you can't really take a short here. But then you reverse and you're in this channel coming down, and he took a long here looking at this like a triple test, which really your triple test came here on my chart, not here. 1, 2, 3. So, and if you take that triple test, it actually works. I still don't like it because you're in the channel, But he was counting this as a triple test and a second entry long. And you're not counting second entries when you start chopping sideways like that, because that'll get you chopped all to pieces. So, but he went long there and he just got trapped, and boom. So yeah, you'd want to close outside in a new low, or at least attempt at a new low and then a higher low before you went long there. That's how you avoid that, because you can clearly see that channel working down. You get a close outside here and a couple of legs to a new low and a failed break lower down here. So maybe you go long there. Again, you're better off to wait on the higher low, but maybe you go long there on that one as a failed breakout, because your channel's played out too. And coming back to this, you've got a failed breakout the low side. But a lot of times the reason you'll see a failed breakout like this is because they couldn't take it lower. And so what they'll do is they'll try to push it out the other side, and that traps in all these longs that are taught to buy on a breakout, and they'll be buying up here and jumping on this big bar, and then suddenly all their buy stops are balled up and it stops, and boom, it reverses. And when it runs out this other side, they have their sell stops down here. If they're wrong up here, they're taught to put their sell stops down here, and look at it. Boom, you can see that big momentum move right there. That's from hitting all those sell stops from the people that bought from here up. So no reason to go long there, but first because of that overshoot, which may lead to an overshoot on this side, but also you're in that channel coming down. There's no close outside of it yet. So it's very risky to go long there. Wait for a higher low, which would give you a break, and then maybe you get at least an attempt to make a new low. You won't always get a new low in a tight range. You could get a break there and it bounce off and a higher low, and maybe you'd be okay to go long. So anyway, I hope that makes sense. Close outside, but maybe you take that one. You want to wait on a higher low if you can get it, but maybe you take that one, and then it runs right back down again. It's tempting to go short, but it's just a first entry. There's a close outside the new high, but I'd wait, because really we just had a failed breakout. The odds are we're going the other way. Usually a breakout leads to a big move. You can see that one led to a big move down. This one led to a big move up. And then another breakout leads to a big move down. But anyway, you don't really get a higher low. You might argue there's a higher low here and it's a second entry after a break, but we don't have a new low. But sometimes you don't get them at this kind of location because you're more working sideways. But that's an inside bar. Don't take it. That one does have 2-bar matching low, and if you'd have taken that, it would have worked. But again, I don't see any reason to take that entry. I don't see any rejection there yet. And then it actually looks like you're just getting sideways again. And I probably would have moved this up actually to right there. And I just don't see any reason to enter there. And again, it goes all the way up, then you don't get any entries on it. Just first entries all the way up till you do get a close outside the new high, and it turns down right off that main trend line working down there from way back up here. And so I like going short there. If it hadn't been for that trend line, I'd tell you got to wait on a lower high. But that trend line, getting the close outside new high right there, go short right there. It's also, you could say maybe it's a failed breakout of, because we've had resistance across there all this time. So it's a failed breakout. And then notice you get back inside the range and test it and get another bearish bar. Go short right there. And that's a nice move down. And here we bounce early, so you can't really go long. Close outside. Couple of legs up to a new high, and it turns down again. But no entry there. It's just two sideways. And then, but a few bars later, you get a first entry, second entry. And this breaks higher first. It's not an engulfing bar, so you just go short one tick below that if you get a chance. And it just takes off. And of course, looks like you're trying to find support down here, but it breaks on through. And you end up getting another trend down here. But it just comes right off that. This is like a little spike and channel down. And again, there's just a first entry there. There's actually just a first entry there. And then finally you get a first entry, second entry, and it is right off that key entry point. You do get a close outside the new high all in one bar. It's a fairly low risk bar, 6 ticks. You can actually get in that with the 8 tick rule. The fact that it's the second entry and you are outside the trend line and this trend line's on, I think you can take that trade with no problems. Generally, I'd want to see a more bearish bar, a better close outside on that new high, but it's there. It's just faint. But you get a couple of legs down, and then you get another first entry, second entry, and you get a nice signal bar on this one. Just go short there again. And that's the first close outside the channel, and you get a couple of legs down, and it reverses. Notice that this is off the midline right here, which you may or may not have had at that point. You probably wouldn't have it. So, but you still have your close outside and 2 legs to a new low, way away from the EMA. So maybe you enter there. There's probably more, like I said, green ones in here that I didn't mark. Just so many of them, iffy trades. They're not sure things. So you're probably better off to skip them. But anyway, there it is. Maybe you go along there. Better to wait on the higher low, but you don't get a chance. And look at the momentum back up right there. I mean, it chops all this way down and then zoom, it takes it right back only to come back again and go up again and then finally sell off again. It's just crazy. This is one tough, crazy market. But it looks like you get an overshoot on this one to me. So you get a channel down, first entry, close outside, new low, but there's not a good signal bar there. And it looks like it's going to try to make a new high, and it doesn't. And you got a new low, so first entry, and then this makes a little 2-bar matching high, so that's a new high. So that would be, and that's a higher low than that one. So that would be, you could treat that like a second entry right there. I marked it green because it's a little more advanced, a bit harder for some of you to see. But there it is. Did that actually tick higher or a tick? I can't remember. 69.50. No, it's 2-bar matching high. And the bottom just drops out. And then you get a close outside, 2 legs to a new low. I like going long there on the double bottom. That far away from the EMA. Zoom, it takes, because this is second entry. Zoom, it takes off and you just get stuck here, and it takes off again. 2 legs up. Comes back. I draw my trend line right there and see if it comes back. It comes back and confirms it here, and you get a second entry long, but that's not a very good setup. But then it tries to go lower again and breaks lower and fails and turns up. Don't enter that on the engulfing bar, not congestion like that. But when this ends real bullish like that, I wouldn't have a problem going long 1 tick above that, and boom, off it goes. Another high momentum move. Notice how it doesn't get back to the upper trend channel line. You get a first entry and you get a second entry, but there's no entry there. It looks like it's just kind of forming a sideways channel here. But notice you do get a first entry, second entry, and if you draw a trend channel there, you still get a close outside the new high. Close outside new high. So I like going short there. We've already got more than 2 legs up here as well, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, it puts it up here, but you wouldn't get to that by this point because of the trend line. And this does fall a little short of the trend line, actually. I think that's why I marked that green, because it's a failed breakout, basically, is what it is. But we're in an uptrend. But when you get a lower high, and I think this is five ticks, just go short right there. There's still plenty of room back to the midline there. And I like going short there. It tries to go higher again, but that's starting to look congested, and you can see that's what happens. It even tested again, but I wouldn't go short because we hadn't been able to pierce that midline again on that. It finally does. You get a breakout, no entry, and then you get another breakout. And that's actually 2 legs down. You're not looking for second entries here, but the channel's coming down. You get a close outside and a new low as well. and this actually breaks lower and turns up. You could trade that on the engulfing bar to make sure you get in plenty of time before you get to that EMA. Um, Again, I don't know if I would go long on the close up here. It's 18 ticks, but I do like entering that on the engulfing bar. And it runs back up really nicely and just turns back down and the bottom falls out again. And there's just no real entries here. This one does get a first entry and then it turns back up and then a second entry. Again, I didn't mark it because you don't really have this trend line set yet and it looks really sideways and it's just an inside bar. So I think you let that one go. But notice it drops down, tries to go higher once, twice, and turns straight down there. The reason I marked this green, you may have skipped this one because it still looks a little sideways. I don't think that's congestion. I just think that's down, up, back, and turn back down again. Or you could even say up, and then it turns down again. So it's like two legs back. That's the reason I marked that. That's really, I mean, I wasn't crazy about that. I'm still not crazy about it. But when you get the trend line set on this bar, notice now that you try to go higher once, twice, and you got this real strong trend here. The corrections can't even go more than a bar. Here they're getting even tinier, and this actually does break higher and turn down. So you could treat this like a real strong trend now because look at that move down. All these little tight bars, real tight channels, very shallow corrections. Remember, anytime you come back to the trend line on one of those, you just about can enter. And so here's another one. And here's another one. Somebody say, well, why didn't you pick that one? But if you notice, it's bouncing off the trend line coming down, so you've run out of room. So that one's going to be real dangerous. I don't know if it breaks. Yeah, it does actually break below it. Let's see if I can zoom in here a little more. So yeah, it does break down below it and come back. Don't be trying to pick a bottom down here though. But you get a first entry and then a second entry here, and then it just starts working sideways. You don't have you got the closeout side, but you don't have a new high yet. But notice how it works sideways back to the trend line, the key entry point, and notice you get a new low here, first entry. So that's a second entry short. It's a little sideways too. And you do need room you want to make sure you got room to scalp out there. And you can see you just do have enough. You got 2 points, so you got a couple of ticks to play with. But in a strong downtrend, it's probably going to take off again, and it does. And these are all just little mild first entries. And then you finally get a break. And it turns out you're just chopping sideways here. But notice this channel works up, close outside, new high. Maybe you go short there. See if you get a lower high, and you don't. You just find support down here. And notice this one's working down. You get a close outside. It tries to make a new low 2 times and can't. And then reverses up and gives you a big bullish bar. If it breaks above that, just go with it. Probably going back to the other side. Sure enough, that's what it does. It goes back to the other side. And it breaks higher by 1 tick, turns down. I like going short 1 tick below that. You're going short off the high of the range. Then it comes back again, 2 legs back, and notice they got a channel working up. Close outside, move to a new high, right off the trend channel. It breaks higher, fails and turns down, goes short right there again. You get a lower high here, but no signal bar, and it's moved a little far. And again, the bottom just falls out of it. So any one of the problem here is you probably could still take any one of these signal bars that are very bearish. We'll go ahead and mark them, but I want to discuss something else here as well. So I wouldn't enter that one because it's right into support, but you might enter that. and you might enter that. Neither one of them would have worked, but I'm trying to remember what I was gonna discuss. Oh, the reason I'm not as crazy about entering this one down here is because, or actually no, you're good here because that's your first break and you've just made a new low. Um, you could argue you had a couple of legs down, but this is all still part of this channel, so I think you're okay there. It was somewhere else there. I think it was some of these others over here because now you've had the close outside and the new low. So if you keep going lower from there, you most likely are gonna have another channel and you gotta find it. And I think you just have like a little channel here that starts working lower and you get a break and a new low and you get a couple of swings to a new low. But this thing actually keeps on going even lower before it finally. I mean, it's just a very bearish day. But anyway, this was a failed break. You're trading this as a failed breakout. And notice there's a leg up and then a little correction in here and another leg up. So again, it's you're looking at it like so. And we're just bouncing along here. This is tempting, but there's not very much room. And you see how it bounces. It ends up going lower, but you don't know that ahead of time. You make a new low here and you get a first entry, second entry. There's still plenty of room there. Maybe you take that. It's not an ideal entry, but you don't have a new low in place here yet on this channel. And you got a second entry short right off the key entry point, or the midline and the 21 EMA, which you got two pieces of resistance there. And it does hold, and you can bounce down here, and you bounce off the lows again, and then it reverses. And again, we might have had another overshoot down here. We've had a bunch of those lately because this really looks correct right here. So we might have had another overshoot here, which led to the break. So sometimes it's easier to see the overshoots after the fact because in real time, it's sometimes you don't know where it's going to bounce again. But I believe we had another overshoot there. And even though we bounced a little lower, we still get the break pretty soon once we go to the other side. And so it takes off and you get a first entry, then it tries to go higher and fails and turns down. I like going short there. Now you don't have a break in new high, but I still like going short on that one. We're in a big, big strong downtrend, and that's the first break of this channel. So, in fact, this looks like this is probably a little steeper, so we do have I think you do have a break, a close outside and a new high all in one bar, then a lower high. And then you get another lower high, but it's on the wrong side of the EMA, and just the first entry, and then that's a nice move down, and it takes you into 230. So crazy day. This is a long chart lesson because I spent 5 or 6 minutes in the beginning, and it still took 30 minutes to work through all this stuff and explain everything. This is a difficult day. And most of these green ones, most of you should ignore them. And there's probably other green ones that I didn't even talk about that you could argue for. So on a day like this, just wait on the good trades. And you might have to be patient, but wait on them. But yeah, we're 40 minutes here, so I'm going to wrap this up. It's a little late, and this is going to wrap up our week. I'll be back Monday. Hope you had a good trading day. And again, if you're struggling, this is hard trading. So, I mean, you got to be really experienced to see a lot of this stuff. And so skip the engulfing bars. Don't try to trade those. Just ignore them unless you're super skilled and you're at that point where you're trying to add those and you really understand them. But most of you are not going to be anywhere near that point. Leave them alone. Stick to the basics. And we aren't getting a lot of basic entries, but that's just the way it goes. So, but stick to the basics, and you'll be better off. But we'll be back Monday. I'm done for today. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.